Germany just fell. Not in a war. Not in a dramatic crisis broadcast across every news channel. No single moment you could point to and say, that's when it happened. It happened quietly. Statistically, officially, Germany lost its position as the world's third largest economy. And most people on the planet, including most Germans, have absolutely no idea it already happened. Think about what that means for a second. But wait, before we begin, please subscribe to ensure that you never miss out on any of my essential stuff. Comment, I subscribe below, and I will personally welcome you to our community. With that said, let's get started. A country that rebuilt itself from complete devastation after World War II. A country that became the engine of the entire European economy. A country whose engineering, whose discipline, whose industrial precision was respected and feared across the globe, just got overtaken. And the world barely flinched. So today we're going to break down exactly how it happened, why it matters to you personally, and what comes next. Not with jargon, not with charts you need an economics degree to understand. With real numbers, real people, and a clear picture of a world that is changing faster than most people are prepared for. Because this isn't just Germany's story. It's a warning. And the countries and people who read it early are the ones who come out ahead. In 2024, Germany's GDP shrank to $4.1 trillion. America's crossed $28.7 trillion and kept climbing. The IMF confirmed it. 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth. The textbook definition of a recession. Official. Undeniable. Done. But here's what the headline doesn't tell you. America didn't just get stronger in isolation. Germany fell. And understanding why Germany fell is just as important as understanding why America rose. Because the forces that brought Germany down are not unique to Germany. They are moving through economies all over the world right now, including yours. This is going to affect your job, your savings, and your cost of living whether you live in Frankfurt, Ohio, Lagos, or Manila. Meet Klaus, 61 years old. 35 years as a mechanical engineer at a Volkswagen plant in Wolfsburg, the city that Volkswagen essentially built, the city where the company's history and Germany's industrial identity are so intertwined, they are almost inseparable. Klaus knew those machines the way some people know music. Intuitively, completely, he could diagnose a problem by sound before the diagnostic system flagged it. In 2023, Klaus took an early retirement package. Not because he wanted to. Not because he was ready, because his plant cut EV production shifts by 40%. The global push toward electric vehicles was supposed to be Germany's next chapter, but the transition came faster and harder than anyone planned, and the work simply evaporated. Last spring, Klaus opened his pension statement. He made himself a coffee, sat down at his kitchen table, and went very quiet. His pension, the one he had spent 35 years building, contributing to faithfully through good years and hard years, was buying 22% less than it did in 2019. Not because of bad investment decisions, not because of fraud or mismanagement, because inflation had moved through his savings like a slow fire. Steady, quiet, and by the time you smell the smoke, a lot is already gone. Klaus's story is not an edge case. The Bundesbank's 2024 annual report confirmed that German industrial output fell 7.5% year over year. Energy costs, the fuel that powers every factory, every production line, every heated warehouse, rose 143% in the years following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. 143%. Sit with that number. If your electricity bill or your heating costs rose 143%, what would that do to your household budget? Now multiply that across every factory in Germany, every chemical plant, every steel mills, every auto production facility running 3 shifts a day. That's not a headwind, that's a wall. And the energy crisis, as devastating as it was, turned out to be only the beginning of Germany's problems. BASF, if that name doesn't mean much to you, here's the context. BASF is the world's largest chemical company, founded in Germany in 1865. For 160 years, it has been one of the anchor institutions of German industrial power. The kind of company that, if you told someone 10 years ago it was leaving Germany, they would have laughed at you. BASF is closing plants in Germany and moving production to Louisiana, not relocating to another European country with lower costs. not moving to Asia, to the American South. Because right now, financially, operationally, the math works better there than it does in the country where the company was born. And BASF is not alone. A McKinsey Global Institute report published in 2024 found that 34% of German manufacturers surveyed were actively considering relocating operations outside Germany within the next 5 years. Not worried about it. Not discussing it in abstract terms. Actively planning. 1 in 3 German manufacturers, looking at the numbers and asking whether staying makes sense anymore. When the companies that built a country start asking that question out loud, that is a structural alarm. Not a cycle, not a correction, a structural alarm. Meet Ingrid, 54 years old. She spent 20 years working at a precision part facility in Bavaria, a supplier to BMW. The work required skill, attention, and consistency. The kind of job where you develop real expertise over years, where your hands learn things your brain could barely articulate. Ingrid was good at it. She was proud of it. In March 2024, her company announced that production was shifting to a new facility in South Carolina. Ingrid didn't lose her job immediately, but her hours dropped from 40 a week to 24. And the financial difference was immediate and sharp, felt in the grocery store, in the heating bill, in the quiet anxiety of doing the mental math every time she opened her wallet. She described the feeling as waiting for a second shoe to drop that you can never quite hear. So Ingrid did something that took real courage. She stopped waiting and started moving. She enrolled in an industrial robotics retraining program, partly funded by EU reskilling grants. She spent her evenings learning to program and maintain the same automated systems that were threatening to make her position obsolete. 6 months later, she was more valuable to her employer than she had been in years. Not because the threat went away, because she understood it well enough to put herself on the right side of it. If you work in manufacturing, logistics, energy production, or any sector tied to physical industry in Europe right now, Ingrid's move is worth studying. The retraining programs exist. The funding is available in many EU countries. The window to use them is open. But windows like that don't stay open indefinitely. Now, why is all of this investment, all of this production, flowing toward America? That answer has a specific name, and most people have never heard it. In August 2022, the United States passed a piece of legislation called the Inflation Reduction Act. Outside of American political circles, most people barely registered it. Business journalists covered it briefly. Some European officials expressed concern, and then the news cycle moved on. That was a serious mistake, because the IRA quietly, methodically, at enormous scale, redirected $369 billion in clean energy and industrial investment. And it did something no other government had managed to engineer so effectively. It made America the single most financially attractive place on earth to build a factory, a battery plant, a solar facility, or a clean energy operation. The tax credits were extraordinary. In certain categories, companies could recover between 30 and 70 cents of every dollar invested, simply by choosing to build on American soil, not by meeting complex criteria, not by navigating years of regulatory approval. By building in America. The Brookings Institution confirmed the results in a study published March 2024. The IRA generated 272,000 new American manufacturing jobs in just 18 months. In that exact same period, European clean energy investment dropped 12%. America created 250,000 manufacturing jobs. Europe lost ground. Same 18-month window. Simultaneously. This is not coincidence. This is policy engineering at a scale that will be studied by economists for the next 50 years. For Germany specifically, the timing was catastrophic. Germany had spent 20 years carefully constructing an energy strategy built on cheap Russian natural gas. It was rational. It was efficient. It made German manufacturing globally competitive in ways that were genuinely impressive, keeping production costs low enough to dominate global export markets while maintaining high wages and strong labor protections. Then February 2022 arrived. Russia invaded Ukraine. The gas supply collapsed. And the Inflation Reduction Act made Germany's entire energy model not just temporarily unworkable, but strategically obsolete. 2 years. That's how long it took to dismantle a 20-year strategy. For investors, business owners, or anyone with retirement savings, understanding where IRA equivalent incentives exist in your country or region is one of the most practically useful pieces of research you can do right now. Where government capital flows at that scale, jobs and economic growth follow. That pattern is consistent and reliable across economic history. Now here's what the triumphant American headlines completely buried. And it matters. America's economy grew, measurably, historically, and simultaneously. 61% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. The Federal Reserve's 2024 data shows U.S. household debt reached $17.5 trillion. Credit card delinquencies among Americans under 40 rose 50% year over year. A Rand Corporation analysis confirmed that the wealthiest 1% of Americans captured 45% of all new wealth generated between 2022 and 2024. Record GDP. Record personal debt. At the same time, in the same country. This is what concentrated growth looks like. The economy expands, but the expansion flows upward. And tens of millions of people working full-time jobs in the world's largest economy, it doesn't feel like anything changed at all. Because for them, it didn't. Meet James. 59 years old. 22 years as a warehouse supervisor in Dayton, Ohio. The kind of manager who knew every worker on his floor, their names, their schedules, who was reliable under pressure and who needed extra support on a hard day. He built something real there. A team. A rhythm, a professional identity. In 2023, his facility completed an automated upgrade, an Amazon robotic sorting system that transformed the operation almost overnight. His team went from 40 people to 11. James kept his job, but only barely, and the security he had felt for 2 decades evaporated in a quarter. He enrolled in a county retraining program, funded partly through IRA workforce provisions, and spent 8 months learning logistics software management and automated systems oversight. Today, James manages a robot that replaces colleagues. Same building, higher salary, a completely different relationship with his own future. He told a local interviewer that the hardest part wasn't learning the new skills. It was letting go of the idea that loyalty to a company was the same thing as security. It isn't. It never really was. And the economy being built right now is making that truth impossible to ignore. And just when you think the picture is clear, China walks in and complicates everything. In 2023, China became the world's largest car exporter. Not Japan, which dominated global auto exports for decades. Not Germany, which built its entire economic and cultural identity around automotive engineering. China. The International Energy Agency's 2024 report confirmed that China produced 58% of all electric vehicles sold globally. BYD, a Chinese automaker that barely registered in Western automotive conversations 5 years ago, outsold Tesla worldwide in the fourth quarter of 2023. For Germany, this is not a distant competitive concern. It is an immediate existential pressure point. BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Volkswagen collectively generate between 30 and 40% of their total global profits from Chinese consumers. China is not just a market for German cars. In many ways, it eyes the margin that makes German automotive profitability work. Remove that, or significantly reduce it, and the financial architecture of Germany's most important industry changes completely. If Chinese consumers shift toward domestic brands, which is already beginning to happen, or if trade tensions between Europe and China escalate into significant tariffs, German automakers face a reckoning that no amount of domestic restructuring can fully offset. If your investment portfolio or pension fund has exposure to European automotive stocks, this is not abstract geopolitical analysis. This is a direct and no-term financial risk worth examining specifically and seriously. Germany's government announced a €100 billion industrial modernization fund in early 2024, targeting hydrogen technology, semiconductor manufacturing, and AI-integrated production systems. The commitment is real. The funding exists. But the timeline is compressed in the competition. From America's IRA, from China's state-directed industrial strategy, is not pausing to wait for Germany to catch up. Economic historians are making a specific comparison right now that deserves your attention. They are comparing this moment to 1971, the year the United States ended the gold standard and the global financial order restructured faster than almost anyone had anticipated. That year, the things people believed were stable turned out to be far more fragile than they appeared. The ground shifted, and the people who had paid attention to the early signals came out differently than those who hadn't. The World Economic Forum's Global Risk Report 2024 ranked economic fragmentation as the second most significant long-term global risk, projected to cost $7 trillion in lost global economic output by 2030. Not from war, not from a pandemic, from fragmentation, from the slow decoupling of the world's interconnected economies into competing regional blocs. Three scenarios are unfolding simultaneously right now. In the first, Germany successfully reindustrializes, using its modernization fund to build genuine leadership in hydrogen and semiconductors, reclaims economic ground by 2030, and demonstrates that established industrial powers can genuinely transform themselves under pressure. In the second, the European Union constructs a coordinated economic response, a European equivalent of the IRA, fast enough and large enough to slow the capital drain toward America and stabilize European industrial investment. In the third scenario, neither happens quickly enough. Global supply chains fragment into regional blocs. The world organizes itself around an American economic zone and a Chinese economic zone, with Europe, wealthy, sophisticated, but caught between two far larger gravitational forces, struggling to maintain independence and competitiveness in both directions simultaneously. Which of those futures arrives is not determined by governments alone. It is shaped by millions of individual decisions, by workers who retrained before they had to, by investors who examined their exposure honestly, by ordinary people who paid attention to global signals instead of waiting for real assurance that may not come. The shift has already happened. Germany has already fallen from third place. The capital is already moving. The factories are already relocating. The only question left is which side of this you're standing on, and whether you moved early enough. Germany built the most powerful industrial economy in European history. It did it rising from complete devastation, from rubble and division, to become the economic engine of an entire continent. In under 50 years, that is one of the most remarkable economic achievements in modern history. America just overtook it, not because Germany gave up, but because energy costs exploded, policy gaps widened, a 20-year energy strategy collapsed in 2 years, and a competitor moved with a speed and scale that Germany's political and industrial establishment was not prepared for. The people in this story who came out ahead. Klaus, who started reading global signals instead of waiting for his pension to recover on its own. Ingrid, who enrolled in retraining before she lost her job, not after. James, who let go of the idea that institutional loyalty was the same as personal security. None of them had special advantages. They just moved before they had to. That's the pattern. In every economic shift in history, that's a pattern. So here's a question I want you to sit with and answer in the comments. Do you believe Germany recovers and reclaims a position as the world's third largest economy by 2030? Or is this the beginning of a permanent realignment in global economic power? And if your country were facing exactly what Germany is facing right now, what is the one decision you would make differently? Drop your answer below. The most thoughtful response gets pinned.